Mark Hale here for the New York Post, and today we're going to be discussing tomorrow's Kentucky Derby with New York Post horse racing experts Ed Fontaine and Ray Kerrison. And Ed, let's start with you right off the bat. Do you think Uncle Mo is going to run in this race, or do you think he's going to be scratched?
This has been the dominating question all week long. He would have been the heavy favorite off his 2-year-old championship campaign, except he was beaten as the heavy favorite in the Wood Memorial in his last race. And they said he came out of that race with some sort of stomach ailment, what they've been treating all along, and he lost his appetite for a while. Even this morning, his owner said he's only 50-50 to run. They'll examine him. They're examining him probably as we speak with the veterinarians, and they'll probably decide by tomorrow morning whether to scratch him or not. Even if he does race, he's a huge variable, because if he somehow can recapture the form he had last year, he'll blow these horses away. But can a horse who's been sick, who has questions about his distance ability, be 100% in this field? So you really don't know where to go with him if he does run. I think a lot of people would be better off if he didn't, because that would be one, like I said, giant variable to go away. But the gut feeling is that he won't run, but like he said, if he does, the big question mark, you don't know what to do with him.
All right, Ray, let me ask you this now, especially with Uncle Mo being a variable, and especially considering he might not run at all, is Dialed In a worthy favorite here?
Absolutely, Mark. Yep. He's. If I were the line maker, I can't think of another horse on the field that I'd put ahead of him, and because he has the form, he's done everything right, and if you spend some time around Nick Zito's barn this week, as we have, you can't help but feel the infectious enthusiasm that Zito has for this horse. He didn't have it last year with Icebox, who ran a tremendous race to get second in the Derby, but he's just touting this horse very heavily, loves him. And so that's why I think he's a worthy favorite.
All right. Now, guys, for both of you here, we'll start with Ed. How do the post positions affect some of the horses here?
Well, there were two horses. The third choice, Nehru, and the fourth choice, Arch. Arch won the Arkansas Derby, which he prepped the Kentucky Derby, and Nehru was second by a neck to that race. So they're both coming out of very strong efforts in the Arkansas Derby. However, Arch landed in the post one, which is regarded as a very bad post, because the horse can get buried down along the rail in a 20-horse field, which is exactly what happened to the favorite last year. Looking at Lucky, he got slammed into the rail soon after the start, could never recover, finished sixth, and then he went on to become the champion. So he was taken out by the one post. Nehru went almost all the way to the other end. He's in the 19 post, and you don't want to be out there. I don't believe a horse has ever won from the 19 post. You stand a good chance of getting swung wide around the first turn there. So here are two horses who both have tremendous chances going off their form, who could be badly compromised by the post position.
How about you, Ray? What do you think about the post position impact here?
Yeah, I think it's very dramatic on Arch. The horse I loved going into the race, but I think he's really compromised now, because he's being ridden by a 50-year-old jockey who's never ridden in the Derby. And I think he risks getting smothered at the start. He'll drift back, and then he's going to have to work his way through the field. And I think it makes it a lot more difficult, which is not to say he can't do it, but I think it's a lot more difficult for him.
Now, guys, there are obviously a lot of horses in this Derby. What would maybe be some of the best stories that could come out of this Derby if a couple of particular horses end up winning? Ed, we'll start with you.
A column on one of them.
I'm sorry?
That Ray did a column on one of them, Ray, of Mucho Macho, right?
Yes. Yes, that's the horse that they thought when he was foaled, they thought he was dead. And they all sat around and prayed for him to come to life, and suddenly he jumped up.
Wow.
And now he's being trained by a young woman who's had a heart transplant. He's been living on the edge of life and death for about 7 years. And the horse earlier was ridden by a jockey, Abarcoa, who had a terrible fall at Gulfstream Park earlier this year and was lucky to escape without being paralyzed. So there are a lot of sentiments around this horse, Macho Man.
And another female, no female trainers ever won the Derby, and no female rider has ever won the Derby before. And there's a horse in here called Pants on Fire, who's coming off of winning the Louisiana Derby, and he's got some very good form, and he's being ridden by 23-year-old Rosie Napravnik, the New Jersey native. She's probably, not probably, she certainly is the best female rider in the country, and she's a better rider than most of the boys. She won the riding title recently at the fairgrounds, first woman ever to do that. Well, that would be quite a story if Rosie was able to get Pants on Fire home first.
Guys, last question for you. When the race goes off at 6:24 on Saturday, what's a long shot or two to keep an eye on? And maybe is there even a horse going in or a horse or two going in that we can eliminate right off the bat?
I'm going with the 30-to-1 shot called Brilliant Speed. He won the Bluegrass Stakes last out, which was always one of the top Kentucky Derby preps through the years. Except recently, the racetrack Keeneland went to a synthetic poly track, and horse is going from the poly track. Before that, he was a turf horse. Horses who don't have dirt experience. Most of them haven't fared well in the Derby. I went with him anyway because he has a tremendous pedigree for dirt, and he has a great finishing kick, and I'm hoping that he's going to be able to make the transition to the dirt at a huge price.
How about you, Ray?
Well, a long shot I like is a horse called Shackleford, who is a very speedy horse, comes flying out of the gate, and I think at the top of the stretch he'll be right there. Where he'll be at the finish, I'm not sure, but I'm going to put a few bucks on him, and I'll get a great run for my money, I think, with him up front.
All right, we'll see if he can break through. Great stuff from Ed Fontaine and Ray Kerrison. Thanks a lot, guys. And for the New York Post, I'm Mark Hale.